Hi, everyone, and welcome to Earl Grey. I'm your host, Samantha Fremont, and we are joined by a very special guest. She is the romance author whose name has been on everyone's lips. She has been all around the world and specifically going between Italy and our wonderful hometown, Melbourne, Australia. And here to tell us all about her latest book is the one and only Jenna Lo Bianco. Hi.
Thank you. Thanks, Samantha. That's so lovely and energetic, and I love you for it. Thank you.
Well, I love you too. Or should I say te amo? Oh, wait, no,
Ti
ti amo.
amo. Yeah. Ti amo, ti amo. Or you
So,
can say ti voglio bene. Ti voglio bene.
ti voglio bene.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh, hey, I'm learning some more Italian. I love it. And actually,
Love it.
Italian education is something you're really passionate about and you advocate for it. So,
Yes, yes.
why is it important to you that people learn Italian?
Well, what a great question to open with. By trade, I'm an Italian teacher, a secondary school Italian teacher. I've been teaching for, I think this is my 15th year being a teacher. And the Italian language connection's always been really special and important to me. I have an Italian background. I'm also an Italian citizen, and sharing that love and that passion for the language and culture has always been very near and dear to my heart. And I advocate for all languages, obviously, because plurilingualism is such a gift. Being able to speak or being immersed in more than one language is such a gift. But the Italian connection is really personal and near and dear. And it's just so much fun to teach Italian. And my students have always been really receptive and really positive. And I had really great Italian teachers when I was learning, both in secondary and at tertiary level. So I just hope to continue to spread the joy and love and to continue to give a voice to not only Italian teachers, but languages teachers in Australia. I've done a lot of textbook writing in the past and language consultancy work. I've been very privileged to work on some really high profile projects, and it's a real joy. And one of the things I really love to do most in this space is work with Italian teachers and languages teachers, and do PD workshops or professional development workshops and generate the material and work with them to help them go and extend and develop their own practice. So it's great. It's a beautiful community. Italian or languages teachers in general are used to having to work really hard for advocacy for themselves, and whatever support we can give within the community is really important, and I'm proud to be part of that.
Yeah, it sounds like the Italian community that you have around you in the classroom and also professionally is a really strong, tight-knit community where you all
It's very
support each
special.
other.
Very special, very special. I think it takes a very special kind of person to be a teacher. But then when you put the Italian or languages element in there, it's such a privilege to teach someone about another culture, another language, and you get, teaching someone empathy and open-mindedness is just not to be understated or downplayed in today's society.
Yeah, it's really beautiful to be able to share another culture with someone else. And that's what you've done through your writing. So previously you wrote a book called The Italian Marriage, and I've heard that this is connected to your current book or your newest installment, Rome and Love.
They're actually not connected. They're actually standalone novels. So they're actually completely different stories. Um, you know what? Someone asked me the other day, they said, would you consider writing, a series? And I totally take my hat off to the people who do, but I don't think I'd have the stamina to keep going with the same characters, because I'm kind of happy by the end of a book to tie it all off with a bow and say, okay, ciao, bye.
Oh, wow.
so, yeah, all my books are standalones at this point. Yes.
Oh, because I was reading the comments and people had been commenting about, oh, wouldn't it be great if they were all tied up together? And I assumed that was the plan from the beginning. but
No,
it's
although I have had people reach out to me and say, "Oh, this particular character should get their own book, or this one should do this, and you should do, what happens next?" And I just want to say, you know what? Use your imagination. Whatever you think they do, they can do. You take it on a journey.
yeah, it's really cool that they all have their own like these books act as like a window into different lives, all in Italy. And Love in Rome is or follows Stella, who is an artist, and she essentially decides to pack her bags and move from Melbourne to Rome to live la dolce vita, the sweet life in Italy. But it's a bit of a whirlwind with some romance and all of that thrown in there. So, what inspired you to tell this story?
It all happened completely by accident. I actually never intended to write this book. We were in Mykonos at the time. This was in 2013, and it was a really stinking hot day. It was like 40 something degrees. And we had arrived without our luggage. So couldn't go anywhere really or do anything. And I was working on another educational publishing project at the time, and I had kept, thankfully, all of my resources and my laptop and everything in my hand luggage. So I had my laptop with me, and I just wasn't in the mood, Samantha. Like I should have been working on that project, but I just didn't have my mojo and frame of mind with me on the day. And my fiance at the time, who's now my husband, he was asleep on a bed, just like chilling out because it was so stinking hot. And I just grabbed my laptop, and I can't explain what happened other than like some kind of magic thing. But I just had this vision of this woman, this young woman with short, kind of cropped, wavy hair, walking down this flight of marble stairs, and she had an art easel over one shoulder, like folded up, and a leather satchel over the other. And she walks down this flight of stairs, and she opens up these huge double doors, and she steps out onto cobblestones, and she's caught by this bright white light. And I didn't know what happened. I don't know what brought that image to me, but something told me, something pressed upon my heart to write it down. So I furiously penned that moment, and I wrote what I saw. I don't know why. And then it essentially was the origin story of what I called the Rome story for many years. And over the months and the years that followed Rome story, Marcella joined us, being the cheeky roommate that Stella lives with. And then we had another roommate come and join them, a very handsome American photographer, and then sports photographer, I should say. And then the kind of character list, the cast list kind of grew from there. And I didn't do anything with this like collection of words for a very long time, many years actually. I started a PhD at that point as well. And eventually I fell pregnant, and I had been living at this point in this life cycle between work and all my consulting work and receiving fellowships to research in Italy. I was going to Italy like twice a year, sometimes more. And then suddenly I couldn't because I'd become a mum, and I felt really kind of stuck. And I kind of had to come to this realization that my old life and patterns of kind of being really egocentric, as in just focusing on myself and what I wanted to do, that couldn't happen anymore. And I really missed Italy, and I missed Rome in particular because it's a place that I've spent so much of my life. And I had to find a way or a vehicle to kind of return to the Rome that I was missing. And I kept coming back, my mind, Samantha, kept coming back to the story that I had started writing. And, I was at home with my young son. He was a couple of months old. And I just decided that I was going to pursue this Rome story and finish it. And thank goodness he was a good sleeper. So he would sleep, he'd have two huge 2-hour sleeps during the day. So I would PhD for one of them, and then I would write the story. And then it took me about 6 months to finish it. And I ended up with 80,000 words or something. And it was rough then. Like what's been published to what was then is very, very different. But I just felt really proud that I had created something out of a time where I felt like I'd lost a great deal of sense of who I was. And writing Love and Rome helped me reconnect with a former version of myself.
Yeah, it's really cool to hear that this started with just like a vision that you had while you were at the airport in and then it's developed, over, as you've developed as well as
Mm,
a person.
definitely,
So
definitely.
is Stella based on you?
Absolutely not. I'm not that interesting and I'm not an artist. I wish I could draw or paint. I tell my children all the time, Mummy's just trying with stick figures. No, definitely not. It's a really good question to ask and really interesting question to ask, but definitely not. And the other characters aren't based on obviously on anyone that I know, but rather I guess they embody archetypes. Marcella was probably the most fun to create because she allowed me to really revisit so many of the sort of cliched and stereotypical characteristics of Italian women and pull them all together. And the narrative and plot is not autobiographical at all. Because that would be a drama if you lived that life. But rather, what I drew upon for that kind of sense of um, authenticity is just so much of what I'd seen, so much of what I've eaten, places I've visited. And when you have that kind of sense memory and scent memory and those visions and photos, you remember what a piazza looked like, or you visited a museum and you can recall that. I just think it gives you this beautiful level of authenticity. Um, that's really rich and vibrant, and that's as close as it gets to me, just reliving this sort of patchwork of memories of what I have seen and done and eaten and lived. Yeah, but not autobiographical. Yeah, I'm not as cool as Stella.
Well, it's cool that you were able to draw from your own experiences to create this original piece. And it's been getting a lot of attention, specifically here in Melbourne. One thing I've noticed, especially I did a cinema studies course at uni and we saw a movie that was filmed in Melbourne and all of us were like, "Oh my God, Melbourne." And we can and we can kind of see ourselves in the film. And I feel like this is also part of the reason why the book is taking off here is because it's set between these two worlds. And for you having, living between Rome and Melbourne, has that like what do you call it, globe-trotting lifestyle given you a different perspective to, let's say, someone who's lived in like one city all their life?
Well, I just think experience broadens your horizons and really opens your eyes to so many different things. And that just gives me a richness to what I can create in my writing because it's all sensory and memory based. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm just drawing back from that. My husband and I are really well traveled. We've prioritize travel a lot over our time together and even as individuals before we met. So, it does give you a lot. But having said that as well, I think Melbourne, um, we're just so blessed that we live in such a multicultural, multi-faith, plurilingual society that just gives such layers of nuance. You walk from one area to the next and the whole landscape can just change. So, it's almost as if you travel around the world in some different parts of Melbourne. And that's really special. I think that's really unique. Um, and I think you'll find the Italian Australian community, it's very tight knit. It doesn't matter which capital city or area that you're in Australia. We just have so much in common and so much to draw upon. And I've had a lot of people reach out about my books because they see something of themselves and our community in that. So all of my books feature Australians in Italy, and not necessarily Italian Australians, but also just Australians in Italy without the Italian, heritage connection. And I think people like to explore what that means because that's familiar. as well.
Yeah, it's really cool to be able to see a bit of yourself in a story.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
And what do you hope that readers will take away from this book?
Mm. That's such a magic question because when you're up writing these books very late at night, or any writer will probably tell you, it's just you wonder, is anyone going to read this thing? Does it
Well, we
make
all
sense?
have.
Does it? Am I wasting my time here? Um, ah, I guess when I write, I write them first and foremost for myself. And I'm a bit selfish like that. Like I go, okay, I'm going to write this for me first, and then it'll go to my team, and we'll fix it up. We'll make it better. But I hope, both of my two books have achieved different things. I think at this point, The Italian Marriage, which was my first book that published at the end of last year, I really had an axe to grind about relationships and women finding a safe place with regards to their health concerns. My main character in that book has endometriosis. I have endometriosis, and I've been through a really rough trot with that. And that was something I wanted to explore and develop there. And I think I did a good job because a lot of feedback has come back that's been really supportive and positive, which is great. With Love and Rome, I think it's more of a coming of age sort of story. The cast is younger, and all the cast are sort of in their late 20s, early 30s, whereas in The Italian Marriage, they're older, they're closer to the 40 mark. But for Love and Rome, I just want people to have this appreciation of this idea that nothing is set in stone and you can change your destiny. And sometimes that involves allowing yourself to be caught by the power of the moon and the stars. And not everything needs to make sense at the time, but what's meant to happen will ultimately happen. And that, relinquishing control and power is something we really struggle with in society. And I think through Stella, I was able to kind of allow the reader to see a growth in her, that she's trying to grasp this world, but when her big changes happen in her life with her heart and, for better and for worse, and for her relationships around her, ultimately it's when she lets go and lets life happen around her that she has her biggest growth and change. And I think, yeah, believing in destiny and believing in che sarà sarà, what will happen, what will be, is hard for some people. But that's what I hope to take.
Yeah, it's really cool that the key to your destiny, it isn't just, following like a set of instructions. It's just letting life take you where it's supposed to take you.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that for our Earl Grey listeners, that life will take you to your nearest bookshop where you can find Love and Rome. So thank you so much for joining us on the show today, Jenna.
Thank you, Samantha. It's been lovely to chat.